All right, everyone. We have the biggest edge day in NBA DFS throughout the whole season. This is probably my day I'm going to attack NBA the most because we are getting some low ownerships on some stud plays. And I got a big list of players I'm going to touch on. It's a big slate, okay? I'm not going to be able to touch on all the players. I want to keep this a short, concise video that you guys can use. There's a lot of injury news. Let's try to get into that for you guys. It is going to be a slate in which I do think we should be aggressive in attacking, though. I kind of want to make that clear because, well, the data can't really keep up with the pace of today's slate. So it's going to be a little bit different format. Typically, I would give you guys like the ownership plays, the top values and whatnot. We're throwing that out the door because there's so much injury news that, once again, data really can't keep up. Sure, like it's going to be accurate enough for sure. But if you put your human spin on like the plays, you can gain a big edge. And I think a good example of that would still be Isaiah Mobley from a few nights ago, where for some reason, no one was on him. Like I think the OF community was the only people on him. And I couldn't wrap my head around why no one was on him because he was kind of an obvious play. And that's kind of the issue, is that there's so many injuries and whatnot that people can't keep up. So that's like a good example of kind of the nature of the slate. And I will say, I do think there is going to be some safety in paying up or prioritizing the earlier games than the afternoon games, because I feel like we have a lot more clarity right now for the early games, and there's enough early games that we can gain an edge by doing that. So real quickly, I'm just going to touch on the top plays that we have available, kind of going game by game, but also at the same time just highlighting them as they come. So Boston, we know, is going to be pretty banged up. It doesn't really make sense for Tatum to play a lot of minutes. He only played 20 minutes in the last game. Brogdon, all these guards, it doesn't really make sense for them to play a lot of minutes. So if they're going to get limited minutes, I do think we can expect someone like Sam Hauser to get some minutes. If he gets around 30 minutes again, at this price tag, he's a fine pay-up play. The issue on this slate is going to be having not enough good plays to pay up for. And so we're going to have to find some like raw points, raw production. That to me would be Sam Hauser, but the guards might sit. And if they do sit or just don't get a lot of minutes, Peyton Pritchard would easily be a lock in the play. If we knew for sure that those guards were out, like we would just be locking him in, because at 3.9 is simply too cheap. If he gets 20 plus minutes, we'd be going in on him. Like, right. If we knew that for sure, we'd be going in on him. So a decent price point play there, a little bit of risk there. We are getting some better value elsewhere, but definitely someone we could look at. If you look at the other side of this basketball game, we got Inyika Okonkwo pulling in a lot of ownership. So maybe we could think about fading him at 4.8 because there are a ton of great center plays that are going to be lower owned. But if he does get 30 minutes, which he's currently projected to get, I believe on the model, 26 minutes. Okay. But getting some ownership, like he'd be a play that's going to be tough to avoid then, because he's been a strong price per minute player this whole season. And then Jalen Johnson, like 3.9 again, like we are getting some good values. And look at this, guys. The last few games, he's only gotten like 20, 23, 22, 19, 14 minutes. And he's been able to 5X at that price tag. So if he gets a little bit more run today, which he's expected to get 29 minutes, he is someone that's going to be super difficult not to play if he's getting like, a little bit more increase in a role, especially going against some backups and with Boston. So interesting there. Let's go ahead and get into Detroit real quick. Not many players to touch on here. I would say the biggest one would be Jaden Ivey. Once again, today is going to be a slate in which it's going to be very difficult to find players to pay up for. And there's a few players where if we just pay up for the minutes, that's huge. And Jaden Ivey is projected to get a ton of minutes again today. So I think we can pay up for him. I think he's actually one of the better pay up options on the slate, if not the best, just because we know the minutes should be there. And I don't want to guarantee it. It is late season NBA DFS, but expectations wise, I think we can expect him to get minutes. So let's go ahead and move on into Chicago. I do still think Patrick Williams is an okay play. If those minutes are there, that's huge. And not too expensive. Like if you can make him work in the forward and small forward spot there. So he's a play that I think we can look at. But also, I think we can easily look at Kobe White. Now that we do need to get confirmation that the Bulls players are not going to play or a full allotment of minutes. And so if they do not play, then Kobe White is a good play. And so is Patrick Williams. But we need that clarity first because Kobe White went off. For Orlando, I'm going to assume that the starters are out. And if they are out, I think Goga is still a very strong price point play. Now, he only had 25 minutes, but he was able to dominate in those 25 minutes. And so this is where, if someone like Inyika is pulling in as a chalky option, I think we can just go with someone like Goga. But once again, there's going to be better center plays a little bit lower on. But I do want to call out the fact that we might get Bol Bol starting. Bol Bol did not start in the last game. And so if he is starting today, that does change kind of the dynamic of the slate and the value, because if he's starting, I think we could probably expect him to get 30 minutes. And if he gets 30 minutes, then, at 3.8, he is simply just way too cheap. So definitely someone I think we can be looking at today, but we just need to get news that he's starting. For Miami, there's nothing that I really love too much right now. They all seem to be priced up a little bit. For Charlotte, once again, I think the toughest part about this slate is finding players to pay up for. I think Theo could be that option because look at the minutes. The minutes have been heavy: 38, 39, 41, 33, and 38. And he's really just been going off. And honestly, even if he gives us 28 DraftKings points or fantasy points, like I'm kind of fine with it because this slate is all about finding the best values and then find the raw point. And I think he gives us those raw points. And I would say on FanDuel at 7K, we hate using the lock word here, but man, it's going to be tough not to love him as a play on FanDuel today. And then on the flip side of that game, I don't see why Mobley would play today. He's available, and maybe he's just available in case they need some minutes. Jarrett Allen currently questionable. Like if those two players don't play, then we're just going back to Mobley. And right now he's still not pulling in any ownership. He is one of the best G League players right now. And we'll see another G League player is pulling in a ton of ownership. It's going to be Kenneth Lofton. They're basically the exact same play. And so if Isaiah Mobley is pulling in extreme less ownership, we're probably just looking at him. But yeah, right now we only have 23 and 17 minutes. So regardless of that, Mobley could be someone that still gets, and he's only projecting 60 minutes. I think he gets 10 more minutes than that. And so if he does, he's another very strong price point play on today's slate. And now looking at Indy, I would say the only good value we could have would be Gabe York at 3.5. If the guards are all going to be out for the Pacers, not a terrible play, but we need to wait on that news, so probably not someone we're looking at. For New York, there's really not much that I love, but I will say Mitchell Robinson could be someone that's extremely interesting because he has been someone that has been getting minutes, and if he continues to get those minutes, I want to call out that the Pacers could be without a big today. Could be without a center because they got James Johnson. Why would they give him minutes? And Daniel Tice. And then they have Jordan Nwora. Like Mitchell Robinson should be able to feast in that scenario. So I just want to call that out, but we don't why would he get minutes, right? And then looking at the Bucks, I think the Bucks are going to present some really strong price point plays today. I feel like I nailed the Bucks take in the previous video where they were all just too cheap and we could expect some of them to go off. Marjon Beauchamp was one of them that went off. I did not see this one coming. Okay, 41 minutes though. Another situation in which, man, if we could get 41 minutes here, that would be huge. And it doesn't make sense for the Bucks players to get minutes. Like I pretty much told people to fade Bobby Portis in the last game because it didn't make sense for him to get minutes. And he ended up sitting and he still pulled in like 30% ownership. Once again, guys, echoing the point, if we can gain some big edges by just being mentally sharp, honestly, like having good situational analysis. And I would say that is a good opportunity for that. Do we know for sure that Lindell is going to get 41 minutes again? No, but at 5.5, I'm definitely interested in betting that. Like I will take that risk because if he does get 40 minutes again or even 38 minutes again, that's huge. And he shot the ball 20 times. Like who the heck comes up from the G League and shoots the ball 20 times in like their first NBA game? That's crazy. And he is projected at 38 minutes. The other player in this game, Marjon Beauchamp, which was someone that I mentioned in the other video. The issue with him is that he's only small forward eligible on DraftKings and FanDuel. He's not going to be someone that people want to pay up for, but once again, if we can lock in 38 minutes or so, 36 minutes or so, like we're going to need to find some players to pay up for. I would be fine with him. And he went 3 for 12 and was still able to get 34. Now, that was because of a lot of blocks and steals. I don't expect that to happen again, but we have seen him be productive in other games in which he has gotten minutes. Like it's not too shocking. So yeah, he's certainly a player I think we can look at on the slate. I'm fine paying up for him. I like the raw minutes that we can get. So now moving on, we're going to move on into Houston. I think this is where we should be making our logical pay up plays. I would say Kevin Porter Jr. at 8.4. I'm happy with that. Like if you want to do a kind of no risk approach, put in Kevin Porter, put in Jalen Green, and put in Sengun because they have been getting heavy minutes and they've been productive. I think we'd be locking in 120 points. And so that's an easy way to kind of gain some safety on this slate. And that's a lineup that I do suggest. And if you are doing that, maybe you run out Jay Huff, who I think will get a lot of minutes tonight. Just looking at the center situation, Gafford's out tonight, and he's someone that did play in their last game. So with Gafford out, I think Jay Huff is going to get a ton of run today. And so when I was talking about Goga and also Enika Agonku, I think Jay Huff is the better of the plays at the same price tag. 27 minutes, 30 minutes he's been a point per minute player. And so basically being the only big there, he's someone that I expect to get those minutes. So thus I'd be perfectly happy to pay that price tag. Now, the issue that I have there is that I think the best move to go with on the slate is to get as many guards in your lineups as you can because they are kind of the easier to predict. So I don't think we want to go 2 centers. I don't. Maybe a power forward center, but like normally we do. I don't think that's the move today. And so now we get into Philly, which is where some of the chalk options are going to be. But Jalen McDaniels, just an easy price point play. A lot of the Philly players are out. And once again, we're getting heavy minutes here. We're just locking in some minutes. He went off in the last game, but look at this. All their good players are out. I don't mind Paul Reed if we get news that he's starting, but we just need to get news that he's starting. And then Milton is just honestly too cheap. Got a heavy allotment of minutes. He's someone we can certainly look at. I expect him to be able to exceed value. And look at this. this is where I love the early games because look at how much salary we have left over. And that's the tough part is we have too much savings. That's the issue. Okay, so let's continue on. Brooklyn is going to present a good value opportunity. It seems like Cam Thomas, a lot of the Brooklyn players are expected to sit, and we know he has been someone that has been productive in a point per minute scenario. He's coming in at 3.2. That just seems way too cheap for him. He is someone that I expect to go off if he does get those minutes. And then also, I want to call it Sharp as well. And Brooklyn, the Brooklyn players did get priced up on FanDuel. That tells you how good of a play they should be on DraftKings. Okay, they should be some of the better values. And we see that here echoed in the model as well. So I love those plays, but at the same time, they're going to be difficult to make work, just given the nature of the slate. We definitely want some exposures to them, though. Looking at Memphis, the current chalk is going to be Kenneth Lofton. Everyone's been excited to play him, and it seems like they finally get the opportunity to play him, and he's coming in at such a cheap price tag. The issue is that he's going to be chalk, so like if he's chalk, there's going to be other pivots we can make. But right now, he is a good price point play. But yeah, there's so many other pivots that we can make. It's like, do we have to play him? Probably not. And so once again, like I want to get exposure to him. And honestly, this is a day in which if you are max entering, you could like really gain an edge on the field just by like, it's tough for me to fit him in right now, but like certainly want some exposure to him. At the end of the day, he's still going to be a good price point play. Probably could be one of the best plays on the slate, honestly. It's a huge slate. Let's get our exposures to everyone. Robinson Earl, min price play, should be getting a lot of minutes today. It's going to be tough to see him not handing value 5x, 6x. Same thing with Man here as well. Should be getting 25 or so minutes today with a lot of the OKC players out. Very interesting play there. For Dallas and the Spurs, we don't really exactly know who's going to get minutes. Sandro should get minutes, but we don't have clarity on the injury situation just yet. And that's honestly going to be the theme for the rest of the slates. Honestly, like Trey Jones is someone that is pulling in as one of the better plays on the slate because he has been getting some heavy minutes and really been productive. I wouldn't mind that, but we don't have that clarity there. And then just looking at Utah, Chris Dunn, I'm definitely happy to pay up for again. He's been someone that's been extremely productive. I'm fine with that. Like I like him as a play. And then really the only other play that we are getting potentially is like Sharp. So once again, this is where I was saying I want to be able to fit in a bunch of the guard. Okay, so Sharp should be getting some minutes again. Like he has been someone that's been getting a ton of minutes. Don't know that for sure. Like we could see him randomly not get minutes. Portland did that, so that's a little bit of a worry there. But that's the slate, guys. There's so much value. There's so much kind of easy plays. Oh, there's one other play I wanted to call out as well, just real quick. For OKC, Dario Saric is extremely interesting at his price point. He's like a good basketball player, maybe not someone that deserves minutes at this stage of his career, but when he does get minutes, he is extremely interesting as a play. If he gets 25 or so minutes, I could easily see him going off for 30. So I want to call that out as well. But yeah, what you guys can see, the biggest issue that we have in the slate is too much salary left over, right? Like there's pivots we can make here, educated decisions. It's difficult though. Like I don't feel comfortable fading anyone. So I do think McDaniels at the small forward spot is the play that makes the most sense. And then Beauchamp as well. But like McDaniels does make the most sense. He should be able to go off. And then 7.1, like I guess I wish I could get to Svi there. I'd be fine with that. But that's where I'm like kind of fine paying up for the raw points there as well, if that makes sense. But that's all for today's video. Guys, make sure to take advantage of the optimizer today. I think it's a big edge slate today. All right, let's have a good slate. And as always, good luck.